What is pussy poppin', you beautiful humans? My name is Ariane Andrew.
I'm Matt Dillon, and welcome to another piping hot episode of Sippin' the Tea. Where we what, Ariane?
Where we sip the tea and our guests spill
Spill
that
that
tea.
tea. Well, honey, you came in hot. Where's little Miss Glitty?
Glitty is sleeping. She just had a full bowl of chicken and mashed potatoes. Where's Mama?
Well, Mama is giving herself a bath right now, so we're gonna fast forward to our guest. Our guest is definitely a multi-hyphenate young woman, author, activist, model. There's not much she hasn't done, and she's so young. Look at you, girl. Like the water's your oyster. Elizabeth Pipko, welcome, my darling. Are you ready to sip some tea, girl?
I'm ready. Thank you both for having me.
Of
Yes,
course,
girl.
of course. Let's kick right into it.
Okay, let's kick right on into it. So, girl, 2020 was a very interesting year, to say the very least. We all, we all went through some things, but we want to focus on the positive. And if you look back at 2020, can you tell us what was one takeaway that you have positive with your career and personally?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's really important to find anything positive in the last year because things have been so crazy. I'd say for me, if you know me, you know that I'm kind of a control freak. So learning that you kind of have to just let things go. Obviously, everyone had so much stuff scheduled for 2020/2021 and nothing, I'm sure, went down for anyone as they had planned. So I think what was most important for me is realizing what actually matters in life, which is the health and, happiness of those around you, and that you can't micromanage and control everything, and that sometimes life will hit you with the craziest things or the craziest pandemic ever. And I guess just to stay in the moment and realize what actually matters. So that would be a really important takeaway for me.
I have to agree.
I like that. I think that's very I think 2020, even as we record this right now, there's still that unknown and evolution. But I feel like what we learned in 2020 was that ability to find that comfort within ourselves, but also work out how to continue with life. So I think like into 2021, it's funny asking that question still, Ari, because I'm like, some places shit ain't changed. So what's going on?
It's very true. It's very true. We're
frightening.
all adapting.
Yeah. So Elizabeth, I want to backtrack to one side of your life as an athlete, as a competitive figure skater. What was the lesson? So let's take you back to that 10-year-old girl that's competing, that's wanting to move into the Olympics. What's your greatest memory of that? And like, what did that teach you in terms of kind of like having that eagle-eyed definition of like when you want something, the efforts, the stamina, all of that? What did that at a young age teach you, and how have you used that kind of throughout life?
Yeah, so when people actually ask me like what it is about skating that I fell in love with, it's hard to explain it because it wasn't actually the sport itself. It was actually who I was when I was participating in it. So when I first started, like step foot on the ice at 10 years old, I had like my first lesson and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. But it wasn't because I was like, oh my God, I love the feeling of being on ice, though that was great as well. It was more so, I love who I am when I'm doing this because I've never seen that part of me before. And through the ups and downs of skating from 10 years old, getting injured in so many more times than I probably should have, moving across the country to skate, having the highs and the lows and the everything in between. I think I've learned almost like all the life lessons you kind of learn throughout your lifetime in like a very short period of time and in a very difficult period of time, especially for a young person. So like you said, from stamina to discipline to dealing with failures and successes and everything in between, there's probably nothing that I don't face right now that is easier for me because I went through what I went through as a young athlete. And every single day I'm like, think about what 12-year-old Liz would do, what she would say, because that girl was so much cooler than I am now and went through so much more shit than I do right now, honestly. And I'm telling you, there's nothing harder than being like a young athlete today. And that prepared me better than anything else for anything I'm trying to tackle now.
I love that.
Yeah. So let's just fast forward a little bit. And, dive a little bit deep and go back to 2016, where you're working for Donald Trump's campaign, but then also pursuing modeling. So those are two very different things, but kind of walk us through that journey and how you got started into politics and how you were able to, I guess, differentiate the two and balance the two of two different worlds.
So to answer the last part of your question first, I was not able to balance the two worlds at all. I guess the world that we live in kind of dictates what it is that you do sometimes. And that world was not okay with letting not just me, but anyone really balance politics and modeling or fashion, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. But it's obviously really hard to balance those two because so many people have an opinion.
True.
And you're not just going to see this in politics, but in everything else. So many people don't want you to have an opinion. And that's really hard for any young person. So for me, I was 21 years old when I got involved in politics, literally fell into it, did not expect any of the things that have happened in the last 4 or 5 years to happen, if I'm being totally honest. And I don't think I planned on balancing anything in the beginning. I was kind of just going with the flow. And only in the last maybe year or so have I realized that you actually don't have to listen to everyone else, and you can do every single thing that you want to do and learn to balance them together and let each one make the rest of your, I don't want to say hobbies, but the rest of your goals even better.
That's true.
I appreciate,
ahead,
I appreciate that. No, go baby.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. And I think, in the world that we're living in today with just so many things and life is so crazy, you should be able to do what you want, how you want, when you want, as long as you do it with respect and kindness. So right. That's kind of where I'm at in this era for me in 2021, when we fast forward, where life has definitely been crazy, where there's so much going on. As I was just listening earlier, as there's like a protest happening because of the vaccination cards, and you just hear people going ham because right. They're like, oh, this is my body, my choice. So we're definitely living in some interesting times, but I feel like when you're able to have, I want to say like a constructive discussion about stuff and listen to understand and don't listen to respond. It's great, because it's great when you can listen to someone where you maybe not necessarily have the same background or same viewpoint, but you're like, you know what, I respect that because maybe I learned something new today.
Right.
I love that, Ariane, and I want to peg that a question to you, Elizabeth. You are probably one of the most prolific kind of conservatives out there in the young female world that we live in. So I can answer this because I know you a little bit. So full disclosure, I know this young lady. She and I get along very well because she represents to me somebody that brings balance to the conversation. And it's presented in a way, I think, that is less visceral than perhaps a Candace Owens approach of like bam, 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 bam. So what is it, Elizabeth, about in your mind when you left, right, middle, back, front, when you have a point of view, how have you approached in terms of bringing that to the forefront? Because you've done it very well. You've definitely cemented yourself in this sector, but you've come at it a little different, and maybe I use the term less aggressive. So I want to kind of get your vibe of like, what differentiates you to the other people in this world, and why it is that you're taking this stance and pushing.
So that's a loaded question.
Oh, it is, but it is. You're in safe company, girl. You're in safe company.
No, I'm good. Okay, so for people that don't know me, like you kind of said it in the beginning, obviously I do a lot of different things. I've worked in politics and fashion, and I've written books, and I've worked in like the religious space, and I've done all these different things. So people get really confused when they try to figure out what it is that I am and like what I do. So I've been compared to a lot of people, mostly because I think it's easier for people to understand what I do. I've been compared to people in politics on the left and right. I've been compared to different models, different people in like the Jewish space. I spent a lot of time fighting anti-Semitism. People try to kind of lump me into like a little bubble just to kind of make it easier for them to understand what I do and who I am. And I think that's kind of why I've had like weird labels put on me when I never actually said that I am this person or I stand with this political party or this system or anything else. I genuinely don't. I don't stand with anything. I love my country more than anything in the world, and I will fight for that forever. But apart from that, I don't really have particular views where I'm like, let me tell you why I'm right. I'm not that person. It's just like you said, I talk so that I can understand where people are coming from. And I like to have those conversations. I was not raised around like one political party. I was raised by people that came from the Soviet Union to come here to be free, just to have conversations. That's it. And I'm always going to be that person. I'm not threatening to anyone, I don't think. And I think that's a really good thing. I don't want anyone to ever think that I think that I'm correct in my view. I think where we're coming from is a lot more important than what our actual policy view is. And I think anyone, like you said, as long as they're kind and willing to listen, they're probably on the right track. And I will never change that part of me. I will never change the way that I try to approach different issues or different people. And I'm hopefully seeing a lot of people like respond well to that and hopefully trying to do the same themselves.
That's very well said.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of the book, so I think that's a really, and you kind of just touched on a little bit about your parents' journey and why America is so important to you because of the sacrifices that they made. So take us through your book, why A, it was important to write for you, and B, like give us a little bit of like why it's so important for you to find your place here, being that they gave up a lot for you.
So I talk about it a lot, obviously, and I'm super passionate about it. My parents and grandparents left the Soviet Union, literally escaped the Soviet Union to come here and give me, or future me, they didn't know me, but to give future me a life here. I think that's what makes it so special. Like realizing that one day you're probably going to have a child or, a grandchild, and wanting them more than anything to get to be born here and have that American dream. When I say everything, I mean, they gave up like literally everything, came with, I think, $90 each. My dad actually lost his father in the whole process of coming here. So, I mean, they gave up their whole lives and more for us to like be born here and to have this life. I don't think a lot of people realize what that means. But for me, apart from loving America, that also comes with like a serious added pressure to be successful and to tell my parents' story so others kind of understand what so many people go through to come here and why I live with like the passion and the fire that I do. So the book was really important for me to write. And funny story, after I signed the book deal, I actually got super sick. I had pneumonia and was like in bed for a month. So I got to sit and kind of like write my entire life story on my laptop in my bed for a month and finish my book and kind of tell the most important aspect of my life without holding anything back, because anyone that knows me knows I have no filter and never hold anything back. And I'm so glad that it's like now out there for the world to see forever.
Yeah, I love that. You know what I love about your personality is that I feel like it takes anyone can just sit back and be quiet, but it takes someone very special to stand up and have a viewpoint, and especially being a woman and being a strong woman to be able to express it, but in such a classy and way. And I feel like, when we think about life and anything, it's like, when someone can present something in such a way, you're intrigued, you want to learn more so than so I really respect like everything that you've been doing from your journey, from being an athlete. It's funny, you kind of remind me a lot of myself. I always like to say I'm a queen of all trades. I kind of put my hands into a lot of things. So it's definitely commendable. And speaking of, girl, because you have so much going on, I want to dive in a little bit and let our viewers and listeners know about, the Exodus movement that you created, and kind of walk us through like what it's about and what you're doing right now to push forward with it.
So a few years ago, when I was working very heavily in politics, to make a very long story short, things in politics don't always go as planned. There was a lot going on. Yeah, you think a lot going on around like the founding of the Exodus movement. It's super complicated. A little bit of it is in my book, but in general, it was meant to be a very political movement and organization. And I very quickly realized that was not what I wanted at all. For those that know me at all, they know that Judaism is like number one in my life. It makes up most of like my values, my faith, my goals, everything around like what I believe in, what I value is because of my religion. So for me, when like religion and politics were combined, it made it very hard for me to do that job, because I do feel like religion and values and beliefs come first and should not really be mixed. So I very quickly turned the organization kind of away from politics and more into like a pro-Israel organization, as well as an organization that was fighting anti-Semitism. We saw anti-Semitism on the rise severely in the last year or so, especially in New York, where I'm from, and it was really hard to witness. So having that like organization behind me and the ability to put these resources into doing something that important to me was really special. And I'm really proud of the work we did, even though it was slightly political for a year or so. The organization is not active right now because it is a PAC and has to be like involved politically. Also super complicated there, but we'll see where it goes. And I'm excited to always stand up for my faith and fight probably anti-Semitism for the rest of my life.
Girl.
I think that takes I don't want to use the male term, but it's like the cojones, the guts to step up and like you said, Ariane, it's kind of like when you are, whether it's a gay man, a woman, whatever it is that you're coming to, step into a room and be like, yo, this is my viewpoint, this is what I stand for. That takes major guts. And I think the fact that you're still here, still championing, is a testament to what will be longevity. So, I feel like there's things right around the corner. There's things bubbling here. And I think that the world needs somebody like Elizabeth in terms of what you said, Ariane, like the delivery component.
Yeah, it's
politics, all of these things come with such kind of like smoke and steam coming out of people's ears, where if it was delivered in like a nice, more conversation, yeah, there's some serious shit that goes with it. So I get why people go up, down, all of this stuff. But for me, it's like listening and taking in is far easier when it's presented in a way where it allows two parties to converse.
When it's not confrontational,
I like a little confrontation sometimes.
I know.
I'm a pop off eventually, don't you?
Trust me, I know. We both are little pop offers.
Well,
I think Liz has got that into her
me too, but I take that out on my husband more so than anyone in politics.
Girl, you spilling that tea.
Honey. That's so funny.
Well, Matt, like as you were saying, kind of like all the things that you see in the future for, what's to come. Speaking of what's to come, what legacy are you trying to leave here on this earth? I mean, with everything that you're doing, before we leave this earth, I know everyone wants to kind of make that mark. So what would you say is your mark before you leave this earth?
It's a good question. I have like 9 trillion goals that I've set for myself. So genuinely hope to achieve at least the majority of them. But I'd say in general, like my mantra is be kind to everyone you meet and fight like hell for what you believe in. So I'd say if people just get that out of whatever it is that I've done, success or not, that would be super important to me.
Ooh, I like that. It's straight to the point and
that's it, yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, I think that's really kind of like in terms of having all these goals and having all these ambitions. And I know the three of us collectively are like very similar. Like the two of you are very similar, knowing both of you. But I think in terms of like what's resonated here thus far in this conversation, it's been the consistency of kindness and like if you lead with that to me is kind of the foundation for any goals or objectives that you have.
It's true. Yeah.
I would hope. Sometimes you gotta crack the whip a little bit. You gotta crack the whip. But
Sometimes.
Leading from kindness, Elizabeth, what in your minds? We're all at varying degrees of like our journey, and success is relative completely. But what is your concoction when you mix it together? If somebody asks you, what is your concoction for success? What do you think are the key ingredients for that?
I mean, there's a lot of ingredients for success, obviously determination and perseverance, confidence. I mean, the list goes on and on, but I'd say for me, if you ask me, if someone asked me like what makes someone a successful person, like you said, I think it's super relative. There are plenty of times where someone has come up to me and said, I can't believe you've done this, or this is incredible, or you're so successful. And that same night, I'm going to sleep, closing my eyes and telling myself, I haven't done enough. And there's also times where someone is not impressed by something I've done, but I'm super proud of myself because I know what I went through to get there. So I think everything is relative. And as long as you're proud of yourself, that makes success, because no one's ever really going to know what you went through to accomplish anything, like what has hit you in life, what you've overcome, or how easily an opportunity came your way. So I think if you can go to bed at night and be proud of what you did that day, that's an actual successful person.
Ooh, come through.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. It is super relative because success can be starting a family. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times in the society that we live in, people rate success based on fame and money. When that doesn't, you could have all of that and not be happy. So again, it's all relative. So I love that you say that. Like if you can lay your head at night, lay your head on your pillow at night, and you're like, I feel good. That is success.
That's all that matters.
That's so true. Now, before we go ahead and do some rapid fires, is there anything you would like to spill the tea on and let our audience and viewers know?
In terms of just anything,
Yeah, any girl, this is your last chance right now to spill that tea.
I don't know. I'd say stick to my mantra, like literally in life, fight for everything that means something to you, and then be kind to every single person you meet. I seriously cannot stress how important that is and how much that has helped me in life. Again, easier go to bed at night and feel good about what I did that day if I know that I fought for whatever it is that mattered to me and that I was nice to whoever it was that came my way. Like that has helped me through so many things. And apart from that, I don't know, just keep your head up because the coronavirus and everything else that could come your way, like it's going to end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, even though the tunnel is sometimes longer than it should be. And things do get better no matter what it is that you're going through.
Love that. All right. Well, do you want to start our rapid fires? And by the way, girl, the first thing that comes to your mind, but you're really quick and to the point. So I'm not worried about you.
Okay.
All right. If you were granted one wish, what would that be?
Oh, geez. For the people I love to be healthy so I could sleep without anxiety.
Love that. Name one fun fact about you.
I have spent like the last year or so learning to cook even better than I think I did already. So hopefully I can incorporate that into the next few years of my life.
Who do you call on a bad day? I think I know the answer to this one.
My brother.
Oh.
Okay, nice. All right, girl. Well, right now we want to let everyone know who's living under a rock, and for people to get to know more about you, follow your journey and what's to come. Go ahead and plug your social media and where they can find your book and anything else that you want our audience to know.
Yeah, so social media, it's just Elizabeth Pipko. I believe I'm on Instagram and Twitter, though I don't tweet a lot. I'm also elizabethpipko.com. And you can find my book, Finding My Place, in Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or anywhere else where you buy books, if you still do that.
Everybody does, child.
Perfect.
Where can everybody follow you at, Mr. Matt Dillon?
You can follow me at Matt Dillon 1983.
And you
Miss Ariane, where are we finding you, girl?
You can find me across the board at Ariane Andrew. Of course, follow Sippin' the Tea TV show on Instagram, Sippin' the Tea TV1 on Twitter. Of course, like, subscribe, comment, share with everyone. If you got some value from today's episode, that's our fee that we ask because we do this out of love. And yeah, if you're more of an auditory person, we are on all digital streaming platforms. But we will catch you guys same time, same place of another episode of Sippin' the Tea TV show. Cheers, guys.
Yes.